Last time we went over the first 49 spells that came with the initial release of Blue Mage, and in a similar vein, this time we'll be going over the spells that released with Blue Mage's first level increase that led the job, mostly Heavensward. Now, by this point, you should have a good idea of how spell acquisition works, but if you want more detail, check out the first couple minutes of the previous video. With that being said, let's get into the list. The first spell of Heavensward is number 50, Alpine Draft, a 220 wind line AoE that can be obtained from the Griffins in the Sea of Clouds. The indicator for this attack is a cast. Number 51 is Protean Wave, a 220 water cone that inflicts a knockback. This can be obtained from living liquid in the Arm of the Father, and the indicator is a cast. This can be rather difficult to do solo, so consider using a party. Number 52 is Northerlies, a 220 ice cone that inflicts freeze if the target is inflicted with droughty. This can be obtained from the Slate Yetis in the Korthus Western Highlands, and the indicator is a cast. This ability primarily combos with Aqua Breath. Number 53 is Electrogenesis, a 220 lightning AoE that can be obtained from the Condensed in the Sea of Clouds. The indicator for this attack is a cast. Number 54 is Kaltstrahl. This is a 220 physical cone that can be obtained from Faust, a mini-boss in the Fist of the Father. The indicator for this attack is an animation, and the ad he spawns also uses it. Number 55 is Abyssal Transfixion, a 220 single target physical attack that also inflicts paralysis. This spell can best be obtained from the Great Google Library normal from the final boss. Now, the boss itself doesn't cast this attack. You actually have to wait for him to do his 3-dot attack and then fail the mechanic. He'll summon 2 ads that use the attack. Each one of them gives you a chance to obtain the spell. Number 56 is Chirp, a simple sleep AoE that can be obtained from the Messiahs in the Sea of Clouds. The indicator is a cast. Number 57, and one of the bonus spells in our last video, is Eerie Soundwave. This removes a buff from an enemy and can be obtained from the second boss of the Lost City of Empedor, Auroch. The indicator is a cast that the boss will use if you have a buff on you, so have something like Bristle or Whistle. Number 58 is Pom Cure, a single target heal that becomes more powerful if under Healing Mimicry. You can obtain this spell from a Furryfoot Kupley Kip from Thorn March Hard. The indicator is a cast that he'll use to heal his ally, so you do need to do some damage first. Number 59 is Gobskin, an AoE shield whose potency is increased if under Healing Mimicry. This spell can be obtained from the Alexander Hider, a normal enemy before the boss of Breath of the Creator. The indicator for this is a cast. Number 60 is Magic Hammer, a 250 unaspected AoE that restores mana and lowers int, working as a second addle. This spell can be obtained from a Panda, an enemy just before the final boss of the Great Google Library Hard. The indicator for the attack is a cast. Number 61 is Avail, which allows you to take the damage for an ally. If you play Paladin, it's cover. This spell can be obtained from the second boss of St. McCain's Arbitorium, the Queen Hawk. The indicator for this attack is a cast. Number 62 is Frog Legs. This is an AoE provoke that can be obtained from the Pirogos in the Dravinian Hinterlands. The indicator for this is a cast that they'll use if you're in melee. Number 63 is Sonic Boom, a 210 single target wind attack that can be obtained from the Anzus in the Sea of Clouds. The indicator for this attack is an animation, and you'll know if it's used because you'll have a dot on you. Number 64 is Whistle, a buff that increases your next physical attack by 80%. This can be obtained from the Dahamels in the Sea of Clouds, and the indicator is a cast that puts the buff on themselves. Number 65 is the White Knight's Tour, a 200 potency unaspected line AoE that inflicts slow. The potency is increased to 400 if the target is binded. You can obtain this from the White Knights in the Vault, and the indicator is a cast. Now number 65 combos with number 66, the Black Knight's Tour, another 200 potency line AoE that inflicts bind and increases its potency to 400 if the target is slowed. This can be obtained from the Black Knights in the Vault, with the indicator also being a cast. These enemies are always next to each other. Number 67 is Level 5 Death. This spell has a chance to kill an enemy if their level is a multiple of 5. This spell can be obtained from the Page 64 enemy in the Great Google Library normal, and the indicator is a cast. Now, the enemy will not use this spell if you are tethered, so you have to be far away from them to do the cast. Number 68 is Launcher, an AoE attack that randomly deals 50%, 30%, 20%, or 10% of the target's health. This can be obtained from the second boss of Balsar's Wall, the Armored Weapon. The indicator for the attack is a cast. Number 69 is Perpetual Ray, a 220 unaspected single target attack that inflicts a 1-second stun that ignores stun resistance. Now, this won't go through stun immunity. What this means is that normally when you stun an enemy over and over again, eventually they'll become immune to stuns. This will prevent that. This spell can be obtained from the Manipulator in the Burden of the Father. The indicator is an animation. Number 70 is Cactguard, which gives a buff to an ally, reducing the damage they take by 5%. This is increased to 15 if under tank mimicry. This spell can be obtained from the second boss of the Sunken Temple of Karn Hard. Not from the boss itself, but rather an ad they spawn near the end of the fight, the Sabatenda Guardia. The indicator for this attack is an animation. The ad will make the boss immune, and you have to kill them first, so you can't really miss it. Number 71 is Revenge Blast, a 50 potency physical attack that increases to 500 potency if you are under 20% health. You can obtain this from the totem vendor after learning 50 spells. Number 72 is Angel Whisper. This is Blue Mage's revive spell and can be obtained after completing 30 stages of the Masked Carnival. Number 73 is Exuviation, an AoE heal Asuna that can be obtained from the Wamura, a trash mob found in the lost city of Amdapor, just before the first boss. The indicator for this attack is an animation that the mob will use to heal its injured allies. Number 74 is Reflux, a 220 lightning attack that inflicts a slow that ignores resistance. This works in a similar manner to Perpetual Ray, where it doesn't go through immunity. This spell can be obtained from the Cloud Wyverns in the Churning Mist, and the indicator is a cast. Number 75 is Devour, a 250 unaspected attack that increases your health by 20%. The duration of this buff is increased if you are under tank mimicry. Now the spell can be obtained from the first boss of the lost city of Amdapor, the Decaying Gormont. The indicator is a tether. However, this can be difficult to do solo, as if there's no one to free you from the Devour, you'll simply die at the end of its duration. Meaning if you want to do it solo, you'll have to kill the boss with a dot while you're devoured. Now if you find that too difficult, you can also try to obtain the spell from the last boss of the first turn, Caduceus. The indicator for his Devour is an animation, specifically when he eats a slime. Number 76 is Condensed Libra. This inflicts a debuff on the target, increasing damage of a specific set of elements. This can be obtained from the Manuscribes just before the final boss of the Great Google Library Hard. The indicator is a cast. Number 77 is Aetheric Mimicry, which allows you to attune to a role, providing various bonuses depending on the role. This will also change how some abilities work, as I've mentioned with some of the other spells on this list. This spell can be obtained from the first boss of Pharaoh's Cirrus Hard, not from the boss itself, but rather from the ads you can spawn. Throughout the fight, you will have a tether placed on you, and if you take that tether to one of the animals outside the arena, the tether will stick to them. Once the tether resolves, that animal will turn into an ad, and that is the indicator for the attack. Once you kill the ad, you have a chance to learn the spell. Now we move into the primal spells, so I feel I need to offer this warning. These have a very low drop rate, doing them unsynced, so it is recommended doing them synced with a party. With that being said, number 78 is Ravana's spell. I'm not even going to try with that one, which is an OGCD 200 potency Earth Cone that grants a buff each time it is used that increases damage by 50% up to a max of 3 stacks. This ability can hold up to 4 charges. The spell can be obtained from Thakastak Hard from Ravana. The indicator for the attack is an animation that he uses post-ad phase. Number 79 is Quasar, a 300 potency unaspected AoE that shares a cooldown with J-Kick. The spell can be obtained from P1T6 from Sophia, and the indicator is a cast that also drops a radial, making it very easy to see. And last, but certainly not least, one of the coolest abilities in the game, number 80, J-Kick, which is a OGCD 300 potency physical AoE that also serves as a gap closer. This shares a cooldown with Quasar. The spell can be obtained from the Burden of the Sun from Brute Justice. The indicator for the attack is an animation that he uses at the start of his invuln phase. And with that, the last spell is done. That means this video is coming to an end, but before you leave, if you're looking to continue your spell hunting, be on the lookout for the Stormblood video. And if you haven't finished all those ARR spells, then consider checking that video out. Either way, I'll see you next time when we continue hunting some spells.